Welcome to the podcast, Gabrielle. I am so excited to have you on today's episode of She Achieved. Cannot wait to tell your story. And I must admit, secretively, I am curious about it myself because I feel like I have known you for quite some time now. And I know bits and pieces of your story, but I don't think I know the entire story. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you, Albin. I am just honored that you asked me to be on your podcast. I'm excited. You've done a great thing, and I enjoyed listening to the others, and I think you've really got something going on.
Well, I think Northeast Mississippi, and especially the women of Northeast Mississippi, have something really special going on. And it's been so much fun having the opportunity to tell these stories and hear them because I truly believe in motivating and inspiring others because if they see you out in the community, right, and they see you achieving and they see you doing something, they too can believe in themselves. It's not like this pie in the sky, it's not Oprah, it's not your celebrities, it's not your actors that you see on TV. It's real women right here in our area. And that's what makes it special. So thank you.
So true, so true. We have so many talented people in Mississippi. It's just amazing.
It is really
It's kind of a
amazing.
well-kept
It
secret.
really is, especially in Tupelo. I feel like
Yes,
we're the hub of Northeast Mississippi in a lot of ways. And so it's exciting to shine a positive spotlight on that.
exactly.
So, before we talk about what you have going on right now, currently in your season of life, you are a partner with Mississippi Made Jewelry.
Yes.
And I know that you used to be a banker, but tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you ended up in Tupelo,
Okay.
and kind of just tell us our story, the beginnings of Gabrielle and on, and then we'll get to all the fun stuff
Okay.
later.
Okay. Well, my friends call me Gaby, so I go by either one. But I am a Tupelo native and a graduate of Ole Miss. I majored in broadcast journalism and Spanish and never used the broadcasting per se, but it did help me throughout my endeavors. So after college, I got married. Now, I wouldn't recommend that to everyone. Probably wouldn't have done that again but it all worked out okay. But moved to Dallas. That's where he was from, and enjoyed that. That was fun to get out of Mississippi and see another lifestyle and see what else was out in the world. And my first job was at a bank consulting firm. So it's very professional. Everyone wore white, crisp shirts and suits, and women didn't wear pants really back then. And it wasn't that long ago. Let me back up, but it was a little while ago, but still, that's the era in the 80s. And learned a lot there. I worked there for several years, and then I went into sales. I worked for RJ Reynolds and was an outside salesperson. That was interesting. And after that, I worked at the Dallas Trade Mart. I was a manager of some showrooms, and we had gift items. So I've had quite a few jobs throughout the years. And then I think I lived in Dallas 6 years. In the latter part of the 80s, my husband got a job in Vail, and we moved to Vail, Colorado. And yes, that sounds exciting and wonderful and romantic and everything, but I didn't really care for it. It's a very isolating place. It's hard to meet people. There aren't a lot of things going on except skiing and tourists, and it snows a lot. Let me tell you, I thought I liked snow, but it just kind of piles up, and it's like over your head, up on the side of the roads, and then after the exhaust, it turns gray. So not real pretty. But my child was born in Vail, and we lived there for a while, and finally I'm like, we are getting out of here. And I convinced him to find a job in Aurora, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver. So we moved to Denver, and I liked that much better. And there was a lot more to do. I mean, Vail is so expensive, so it was very limiting, but I liked Denver a lot better. Meanwhile, we got a divorce, and I had a job at U.S. Bank, which is a very large bank, and learned a lot there. I started out as a private banker, and got a divorce, and so I felt in my situation that I was responsible for us financially and taking care of us. I didn't know where, going through all that, where I was going to land and how that was going to be. So I had a great opportunity at that bank. I could use some sales skills that I had acquired over the years and was able to exceed at that job. In Denver, people are not quite as friendly as they are in Mississippi or the South. So I would, if I saw people come into our branch a couple of times, I'd start waving at them. Just, I mean, that's what you do, right? You wave, and they would, first they'd look around, look behind them, and go, "Who's she waving at?" And finally they realized I'd go, "You," and I'd wave. And so then when they needed something, they would come over to my office, and I would make a loan for them or open accounts for them or refer them wherever they needed to go, and did little things like that because I felt like I've got to do well here. I've got to do well, and was really motivated. And one man even came into the branch one time and had a thank you note in his hand. He said, "This lady wrote my wife a thank you note, and I need a loan or something, and I wanted to find her. Where is she?" So those kind of little tidbits kind of helped me. You had to have, it was not that you were competitive, but they did kind of pitch you against each other, and so you wanted to be at the top of the leaderboard with everything. So I did do well there. I was successful and got promoted to a manager. And I did that for a while, and then I was promoted to a commercial lender. So I enjoyed that, but I'm an only child, and I wanted to get back home, back to the South. I missed my parents and family and Tupelo, and I was dating Rick at the time, and he had been to Tupelo with me one time, and I convinced him to move here because I'm good in sales.
You sure are.
Right. So we got married and moved to Tupelo, and wanted my child to know her grandparents better and all of that, and I started working at Renasant Bank. And I was there about 18 years. I started off, they put me in the trust department, so that was a whole another area of the bank that I got to learn about. They sent me to trust school. Very interesting because I had no knowledge of all of that. And then I ended up in private banking for most of the time that I was there. And so all of my sales skills and all of the background kind of helped me along the way. And I worked there until 2015, and my mother was sick. And so I quit work to take care of her. And while she was in 2017, she went on hospice. And my childhood friend, Teresa Moore Mendenhall, who lives in Jackson, came up, and she and her mother came to see my mother and me. And she told me, "I'm going to retire from my job." She was a physician at Whitfield. And she said, "I want us to go to this school over in Georgia, the William Holland School of Lapidary Arts, and learn how to make those wire wrap bracelets, because we can make all those bracelets and for ourselves and give them as gifts and stuff like that." And I said, that sounds okay. I had a lot going on then. I said, "Oh, well, we'll see." Well, then my mother ended up passing away, and she had that piece of paper, and she came over and she brought it, and she had about filled it out for me, and she said, let's go. And I said, okay, mainly because I wanted to be with her. I wanted to spend the week with her. When we graduated from college, I had known her since first grade, and we had graduated from Tupelo High. We'd been college roommates at Ole Miss. We each went our separate ways. She moved to Jackson, became a physician, had a family, married, all that. I moved to Dallas, Vail, Denver, had a family, all of that. So it was a great opportunity for us to get back together as girls. And so we drove 7 hours over to the edge of Georgia, North Carolina border, and went to the school, and it was intense. It was like a kind of like dorm room that you stay in, but you're right there. The dorms are upstairs, and then you go downstairs, and they fed you great meals, home cooked meals, and you're in a classroom with 6 or 7 other students, and very intense. I mean, some days you were there from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and you were learning how to do all this. And it was kind of overwhelming because I didn't know one wire from another. I didn't know there were square wires and round wires and half round and dead soft and all these things that were going to end up in my future. So, but I just we did that. And we had fun and came back. She went home, and I was somewhere, and I had my jewelry with me. I was going to go meet some friends, and Julianne was there. Julianne Battle Goodwin, another friend who I'd gone to Tupelo High School with, and Ole Miss, and she had gone her separate way, done her own thing, and but she had moved back to Tupelo, and she goes, "Oh, I love that. I want to make that jewelry. I love things that she's really crafty and smart girl." And she said, "I want to go with y'all. Let's go." So the next summer, 4 of us went because we hauled Teresa's 80-something-year-old mother with us. And the 4 of us go trooping over there, and I think Dr. Moore, Teresa's mother, had been the first female physician in Tupelo, and she did basket weaving or something, which ended up being harder than the jewelry making. So the 4 of us had a big time, but before we were even leaving there, Julianne's like, "Oh, we're going to make a business out of this. Oh, this is great. Let me get a tax ID number. Let's open a checking account." And we're like, "Oh, I don't know about all that." So we came back and she did all that. And in fall of 2018, we started making our little jewelry. And Rick and I were somewhere eating dinner. And these ladies said, "Oh, I hear you're making jewelry. We want to come see your jewelry." And I'm like, "You do?" And I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, "Okay." Well, then they text me because I thought, well, maybe they're just being nice. So they wanted to come over the house. So we set it up on the island in the kitchen and put up the little things that we had made. Well, there were like 4 of them. I came over and they were here about 45 minutes, and they left. They bought $900 worth of jewelry. Rick said, "I never knew there was such a need for bracelets in North Mississippi." And ever since then, we've sold a lot of bracelets. So we use sterling silver and 14 karat gold filled materials to make our jewelry. So it's a higher end that will last. And we do wire wrap, we do bracelets, earrings, necklaces, rings, you name it. We're still going strong.
What a story, Gaby. I think it's so fabulous. And thank you so much for sharing. Before we dive a little deeper into Mississippi Made, I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So, you majored in Spanish. So,
Yes.
why?
Well, I took Spanish with Miss Feemster in high school, and I took several years, and I thought, well, I don't know. I just thought I wanted to be bilingual. I never was because I never really had the opportunity to practice. You have to practice. I did go live with a family in Mexico City for about 3 weeks one summer, and I had to go to breakfast with a dictionary. I was down there with their kids and everything, and they had goat milk, carrot juice, things like that. And I'm like, but they took me on a lot of. It was just so fun, and then all the relatives wanted to have me over for dinner, and so it was fun. And I had been to Spain with this Spanish teacher, and so I just decided while I had taken several Spanish classes, why not go ahead and get a double major?
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. A lot of people don't realize how often or how frequently we can use our language skills, right? Especially when we travel, and I know you enjoyed that very much. I'm curious. You mentioned about your first marriage
Yes.
and marrying so young, and you immediately said or recommended that's not something you would advise for someone. If we had some listeners who are young and maybe contemplating that, can you expand just a little bit more on that and maybe some takeaways and things you learned that maybe you didn't know at the time that you know now on that experience?
If I had to do it over, I would have waited. I would have waited. I needed some me time. I mean, I have a daughter who is 34 and she's living her best life, as they say. And she has no strings attached, nothing. She can do all this before she settles down. And so we as women, we need to think about doing some things for ourselves. Of course, I did divorce and get to have a career and do so many things, but a lot of people don't. They continue marriage, and I think, and I've had friends in the past who look back and they feel like they've missed out on something, and maybe
I
they have.
agree. Well, you're still trying to figure yourself out, right?
Right,
Without being attached to someone, you're still maturing. You know, they say that your brain doesn't develop until you're 25. So
right,
that goes for girls and boys, men and women, right? And
right.
so to have the opportunity to experience the world through your eyes, and your own experiences. And yes, frankly, sounds like you made some really wise decisions early on and you took responsibility as a single mother and you were able to accomplish a lot of wonderful things. But that is not an easy feat either. Having a child with not much of a support system, you were far away. You were not in
Oh,
Mississippi
right,
with your
right.
I mean, that it makes it even harder. It's a
It was hard.
definitely
It was very hard.
talk to us about that. Before you moved back to Mississippi and before you met Rick and remarried, what was that like and what support systems were you able to find while you were away?
I had a few friends that had young children. I knew them through like daycare and some things like that. But I worked basically, and I just know that where I worked, you were paid, you had a base salary, and then they gave you commissions at this bank based on what you sold and referred business and all of that. And so I would take Alexandria to school at 7 at the before daycare in the snow. I know that sounds like a grandma story. It wasn't uphill, but the windshield wipers. I mean, have you ever seen so much snow that your windshield wipers are going really fast, like it's heavy rain? Yes, and it's snowing because they didn't cancel school in Colorado when it snows.
Yeah, not
I
like in
mean,
Mississippi.
no, I never saw it. It never canceled the years that we were there. No, I mean, it could be 2 or 3 feet of snow and it did not cancel. So they didn't cancel work either. So I would take her at 7, pay for before daycare, so that I can get to work before the bank opened, before other people got there, get everything situated and ready. And it's funny because at the end of the month, when you like your into your points or into the quarter, I remember it was in the quarter, like the last day of September, and I'm walking around. There's a teller line, and I'm walking around to the people in the teller line trying to, oh, do you have a debit card? Do you have this? Do you need a credit card? Come over to my desk, because I wanted to reach that next goal. So I was younger then, and I was very driven, and I took work home, but I tried to figure out ways that I could excel in that environment. I had a lot of motivation, and like tellers saw more people than I did, and they saw everyone who came through. That's why most people would come to the bank. So I started taking tellers that would refer business over to me, point to me, and say, "Go see Gabrielle." And I would take them to lunch or bring them happies or stuff. So you've got to figure out some creative ways to get the business.
Yeah. Well, that's also intentional relationship building. Working smart, not necessarily hard. Even though you were working very hard, it's a mutual benefit type of factor, right? Talk to me a little bit more about being a woman in the workforce back then when not many women wore pants. Like literally you said that earlier. But you know, banking world back then was also a man's world and you were succeeding in it and you were doing
There are,
very well. Talk to me about those experiences and what that
well,
was like.
I will say I love the South. There's no place like it. It's a hidden secret, as I mentioned before, but it's a lot more progressive in Colorado than it is in Mississippi. When I moved in 1997 to Tupelo, we're a decade behind probably. In some ways, that's wonderful. In other ways, it's a little inhibiting. For instance, back at the bank consulting firm, it was mainly men. Most of the females were in administrative assistant roles, secretaries back then. So there were a few of us who were not. And it was just different. They were your bosses, they controlled everything. And you just have to learn to work with men. You have to be assertive, I guess, in a course, we're Southern, so in a Southern way, we can get away with it better than in a more aggressive way. Now, the last job I had in Colorado, I had a female, and the commercial lending, but she was I think she felt like because she was a woman in a man's world, she was very aggressive and very overbearing a little bit to other people. That people criticized her for that, I guess. I thought she was wonderful. She did a great job, but it was different. And then when I came to Mississippi, yes, I would say that at the bank, 80% of the employees are females, and the other 20% are men, but they had the higher paid jobs. And I just know one time, one of the fellows that I worked with in Tupelo said to me, "You know, Gaby, if you think you deserve a raise or a promotion, that you need to ask for it." I'm like, what? That was news to me. I'm like, oh my goodness, I thought they would look over at me and go, "Oh, what a great job you're doing. We need to promote you." But a light bulb went off, and I thought, oh, okay, now I get it. He said, all the men do. Good to know. So I kind of passed that along to other women as they came through the bank. I would try to say, they would come to me and complain about so-and-so, they're doing this for him and all that. And I go ask for it. All they can say is no.
I love it. You've mentioned this already a couple of times, and I feel like you've built on your journey and on your career, beginning with what you studied in school, and then you became a salesperson, and then you became a banker and private banker and wealth management and all those things. And I think it's your skills that you fine-tuned. How do you think you acquired those skills? Do you think it's something you were born with and then you just were able to curate it as you got more experiences, or what do you think that is?
I was really quiet and shy
Oh my
growing
gosh, I
up.
can't believe it.
Everybody says that now. They're like,
Yeah.
you're lying to me. I know that's not true. But if you go ask any of my classmates in school or teachers, former teachers, they would tell you I was quiet, I was studious, I was scared to raise my hand or answer a question. I was so afraid that my answer might be wrong, even if I knew it was right. Girls are like that, though. If you read about that, they're little boys will raise their hand. They don't care if it's right or wrong. They're not afraid. And so I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to come out of my shell. So in high school, I started taking speech class with Ms. Labakis and Debbie Gibbs, and I was in a play, and that helped me get in front of the class. And I found that I could do a speech better than the class clown. I would have my notes, be prepared, and they would get up there and think they're funny, and you would think they would be great at that, but they would always get nervous about it, I guess. I don't know. And then when I went to school and I majored in broadcast journalism and I worked at the campus TV station, I did a little bit of everything, and I was on news, and I just wanted to learn some poise and how to speak in front of people. And I'm still not great at it, but I've just tried to overcome all that. And then moving away from my comfort zone and not just staying right here, I moved away, and I had to make friends. Vail, Colorado, I had no friends. It was hard to make friends. I made friends with a neighbor down the road, and we were so different. It was just, there weren't many. I had trouble finding a church to go to. So it was just very isolating. But I'm a very social person now. And some of the skills that I have accumulated, I guess I've worked on my communication skills, and I feel like I can get along with any layer of a person, different layers of people, and kind of connect with other people.
That's so important. Everyone can benefit from having great communication skills, or even your basic communication skills. It's so helpful. It's almost a necessity, and I think even more so this day and age, because we have so much technology.
Right.
It takes away the humanity piece of it.
Right.
I think when someone can look you in the eye and have a conversation or smile or wave,
And they're not looking down at their
they're
phone.
not looking down at their phone. It's a huge deal. I think being recognized, right? Like I think that piece of connection, and that trickles into everything else. I think about business, I think about community. People want to be around those that they feel comfortable with and that they connect with and that they feel is part of who they are, or they are heard, right? Or seen, right? It goes such a long way. It doesn't take much. So I think building those skills. I mean, that is a skill, and you just said it. I took initiative, and I went to classes, and I did things out of my comfort zone so that I could. And look how it transpired through your entire career. It's amazing, really. Let's pivot into how it has been important for you to, build those relationships and the networking that you have done throughout your career and how it has helped you achieve your goals through your journey.
Networking is vital, and there's no better place for it than Tupelo, Mississippi. I mean, there is so much going on. This town is so philanthropic. There are boards you can serve on. There are ways that you can give back to the community, volunteer, clubs you can join. Look at your entrepreneurial group. I ran into two people today that I've seen at some of your meetings. So, and I feel like we feel like we're friends. We kind of migrate toward each other. So, all these little things that you can do and be involved in, and they just help you get to know people, and people get to trust you, and that helps you in your business. They know that you're a real person, and you show up for things.
That's right. I think about, as I have listened to you tell your story today, you pivoted a lot. It was your career, but you made some changes. You weren't afraid to pivot and do something different. But you were successful every step of the way. And if I had to guess, you probably carried that networking with you, those relationships, those connections. I talk about this all the time in a group. You never know how one connection is going to help you in the future, or how you can help someone else, because we have seasons in life. Like what you're doing today may not be what you're doing 5 years from now. And that's beautifully even said with you as an example, with you and your girlfriends having Mississippi Made, the jewelry company. Like sometimes an idea or an event will spark something else, and then something beautiful will come out of that.
Right. Well, who knows what God has in store?
No, that's right. Well, nobody does. He's already written it. It's
I
just up to
know.
us to go through it. And a lot of us, we shy away from that sometimes, but it always seems to find us, and we always seem to kind of be heading in the direction that we're supposed to be all along.
Exactly. I used to say at the bank, and this is any place, if you don't like how things are, don't worry, they're going to change. And if you do like them, don't get too used to it, because they're going to change. And even you can make those changes on things. So it's where you head that and where that direction. And I have to say that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And without him, I am nothing. And he's my navigator, and he drives me. And so as long as I have that faith, I'm going to be okay.
I love that, Gaby. Talk to me about mentors in your life. Have you had any mentors in your life that have really contributed to who you are today?
Well, I would say that my mother, and she would not believe this if she was when I was younger, because she had a store that she opened when I was in kindergarten, and she had that store until I got married. And so every afternoon after school, I would have to go to that store. And maybe that's why I made good grades, because I was stuck at that store. And so I would do my homework, and my mother loved to read, so I learned to read. So there wasn't I don't know, they had a TV, but I think my mother and grandmother were up there watching soap operas. But so she always worked hard, and she was involved in the community, and she was kind of just a role model. But I didn't have a lot of mentors. But I've tried to be a mentor to other ladies and younger ladies who are coming up through the ranks, and try to help them with some things that maybe can help them not go through issues and problems.
I think our experiences are always the best teachers, and it's our responsibility to pass it along to someone else. Like learning, you learn
Exactly.
from your mistakes, but if you can help someone else make a better decision on their journey, that speaks volumes because that changes the trajectory, saves so
True.
much time.
True. And when I worked in Colorado at the bank, a lot of times they would, a new person would come along and they would shadow and they would send them to shadow me. And I would teach them. I would say, I write thank you notes. I do this. I do that. And I mean, somebody said, why are you sharing your trade secrets? I said, if they choose to use them, you have to be motivated to do all this. So good for them. I mean, I'm not trying to be greedy and hide anything. I'm willing to share it.
I love it. Okay, Gaby, I know you are super involved in the community. You serve on a couple of boards and you're really active in that perspective. Talk to us about how do you juggle all of your projects and how did you do it back when you were a full-time professional and a mom? And, what advice do you have for
Not
ladies
very
going
well.
through it?
Not very well at all, Albin. You can't have it all. I'm
That's
going to
true.
say that. You cannot have a successful career, a happy marriage, beautiful little children, a healthy meal on the table, exercise, go out with your friends and have some girl time. You can't do all that. And have a clean house. I mean, something's got to give. It's just not possible. No one is superwoman, and you've got to give yourself some grace and just let whatever can go, go. And you also sometimes have to say no. And everyone that's going to hear this is going to laugh because I've been accused of not knowing how to say no. And but you need to put your family first. And I love being involved. I love people and meeting people and being involved. I mean, today I spend most Wednesday afternoons at the Tupelo Lee Humane Society at the shelter, working at the front desk and trying to get those cute little animals adopted.
I think anyone who's listening to this podcast is probably in that same boat. They need to hear it. They need to put that on repeat. They need to be told. I know I need to be told and reminded that I can't do it all. I definitely need to learn how to say no. But a lot of that also comes with the territory of figuring out what's important, right? What are the priorities right now in your life? What are you working on?
Well,
What are you trying to
everyone wants
achieve?
a piece of you.
They do.
I mean, your
They
job, you go
do.
to work, your job wants part of you. You go home, your husband wants some attention, your child wants some attention. Your clubs that you're in need your help. The organizations that you volunteer at, the boards, they want something. And then if you have any hobbies or ever have any time to do anything. So
You're so right. You're so right. You're speaking to me right now. I feel like you know what my day has been like, and you're trying to preach to me right
and
now.
you have to take time for yourself. And I did. Our church had some sermons on this, and all the women in the congregation were looking around and go, "He's talking to me," because we're so busy, and women, you feel like you have to push yourself, and you don't. Just relax, have some fun. Life's a journey that you're supposed to enjoy.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. You're right. I bet everyone feels like you're talking to them right now. And that is the connection with women. So when I started the women's group, that was one of the reasons. I felt like when I talk to you or when I get to know you, I don't have to explain all the other priorities and all the weight on my shoulders. I love my gentlemen, mentors, and my men in my life who are amazing, amazing. But there's something uniquely different with connecting with like-minded women, especially the exchange of experiences and not having to explain yourself and everything you have going on and juggling, especially,
We know.
it's just our mind, we're just wired differently.
Right.
And that's okay. But there's something beautiful about being able to connect on that level and not have to explain it and just do what you have to do.
Exactly.
I love
We
it.
get it.
I love it. We did it. So, a lot of listeners that listen to this podcast, they may be transitioning, they may be looking to start a business, or maybe start a new job, or maybe they're contemplating going back home and being a stay-at-home mom. Like, what advice would you give those ladies who are maybe pivoting or thinking about pivoting?
pivoting is good. I've done it all my life. As you can tell, I zigzag through life. So enjoy yourself. Do things that you want to do, and um, be happy and be calm. But analyze everything. I've got to say that, because if you're looking at being an entrepreneur and wanting to start your own business, Zig Ziglar once said, "Success occurs when our dreams get bigger than our excuses." And I
That's
liked that.
good. Wow.
However, have a financial background and I'm not a risk taker. You've got to do your research first. You have to make sure what you're wanting to do is financially feasible. Um, Examine it every which way. When I was a banker and did loans, people would come to me and they would tell me about this great idea. They'd give me the pitch and tell me about it, and they would want to borrow X amount of dollars. And my first question was, do you have a business plan? And then I would say, do you have any collateral? The bank is not going to take all the risk in your dreams. And you've got to have some skin in the game. And so a lot of people don't realize that. And sitting on that side of the desk, I saw that. And so if it's something that you want to do and you're not good with money, you need to find someone that can help you walk you through that, because you're going to really struggle with your business if you don't understand finances. You can't pay your bills with dreams. You can make them come true. I'm not trying to put a damper on anyone's ideas and their entrepreneurialism, but just do your homework and do the numbers, and there's help for doing business plans in Tupelo. So
That is such great advice, and it's so true. We may be ambitious and have certain goals, but if we don't have a roadmap, a plan for getting there, we may never achieve them. And it does take some action, and it does take some getting out of your comfort zone. But that like you said, Tupelo has a plethora of, and just in our region in general, we have so many resources.
Absolutely.
I feel like if you just picked up the phone or Googled it, you'd be able to find so much. I mean, I know alone in my group, the Women Entrepreneurs Group, constantly sharing resources and things, and you have to do something with it, right? You have to take action yourself. You can't just expect it to come to you because you're dreaming it. You actually have to partake in the action portion of achieving your dreams and stuff. Talk to me about how you stayed motivated if you had, when you were facing setbacks or maybe some failures on your journey.
Sure. There are lots of failures, but I'll give you this scenario. Back when I lived in Vail, I could ski a little bit, but I would go and try to learn to ski a little bit better. And someone was trying to help teach me. And he told me, if you don't fall down, you're not challenging yourself. And I thought, I thought the whole goal was to stay upright and not fall down while I'm skiing. But that stayed with me through life, because if you're not falling and having setbacks and failures, you're not challenging yourself. You're just floating through life, and you're missing out on a lot.
That's beautiful. I love it. So, what is next for you, Gaby? Like, what is the next step in your next goal and aspiration in your journey?
I do not know, Albin. I really don't, and that's okay. Because like the jewelry business, it just fell in my lap. It just kind of happened. So I just know that there are so many things. I love to learn things. I would like to do new things. So many things I want to do before I die.
Like what? Tell me some of those things.
Paint, places I want to travel. I don't know, write a book. I don't know if I'll ever do that. I love to read. So constantly reading. So I don't know. That's what's so fun about it, because I know I'm just going to around a corner one day and it's going to be there.
I love it. If you could tell one thing to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Be more confident in myself. Don't be so scared. No one's going to bite you. Go for it. Yes, I did not have enough self-confidence early. And that's one reason I never pursued the broadcast journalism road, because when I got married and moved to Dallas, I was too nervous to go check out, because those are bigger markets. Usually in broadcasting, you start at a small market and you work your way up and you move. I used to, when I was little, I would practice. I would say, more news later on this NBC station, because I could see myself on that. But I was just afraid to do that. And who knows, if I had pursued that. But I had some friends who had graduated from college before I did, and they worked at a bank consulting firm, and they called and said, hey, you want to come apply for a job down here? And so I did. So it all worked out beautifully, because I had a really beautiful road in finance, and I found out accidentally that I loved it.
I think that's so fabulous. Today was so much fun. Thank you, Gaby, for sharing your
Thank you,
story,
Albine.
sharing all the insights of your journey and your achievements and your successes, as well as some of your failures, as you mentioned.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here with me today. It was
Well,
really a pleasure.
I
and a
enjoyed
joy.
it immensely.
You're so much fun. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Albine.